It was supposed to be just another ordinary day. Before I start, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And in the comments, tell me what you do for a living and whether you've ever experienced something strange or unforgettable at work. Now, let me tell you what happened to me. I've been a taxi driver in a small town in the Midwest for almost 15 years. Nothing special ever happens here. The kind of place where everyone knows each other, where the biggest excitement is a high school football game on Friday night. That morning started like all the others. I grabbed coffee from the same gas station, nodded to the same cashier, and drove my usual route. A few short rides. An older woman going to the grocery store, a man heading to work at the factory. Around noon, I pulled over near the local bank. It was a common spot to wait for passengers. The sun was warm, birds were chirping. People walked in and out of the bank holding envelopes and small bags. Everything felt peaceful. I checked my phone, scrolling through the news, thinking about what I'd eat for lunch. And then, suddenly, the back door of my taxi flew open. A man jumped inside. Before I could even turn around, I felt something cold press against the back of my head. A voice whispered, shaking but firm, "Drive, now, and don't do anything stupid." My heart nearly stopped. I froze for a second, staring at the steering wheel. The cold metal stayed against my neck. "Please," he said again, louder this time, "just drive." I slowly put my hands back on the wheel and pulled into traffic. My mind was racing. Was this really happening in my small, quiet town? I tried to look at him in the mirror, but his face was mostly hidden under a cap pulled low. His breathing was fast, nervous, not angry, just scared. "Don't speed," he said, "and don't stop." We drove down the main road, away from the bank. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hit the brakes. I wanted to run. But fear kept me moving forward. After a minute of silence, I heard sirens in the distance. Not close, but close enough to make my stomach twist. The man behind me tensed. "Just keep going," he whispered. I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. At that moment, I realized my ordinary day was gone, and my life might never be the same again. As we drove farther from the bank, the town slowly faded behind us. The familiar streets turned into long, quiet roads lined with trees and open fields. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. The man's breathing was still fast, like he had just run a marathon. "Where are we going?" I finally asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Out of town," he replied. "Just keep driving straight." I noticed something strange. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't angry. He sounded scared. That didn't make sense to me. Most stories you hear about situations like this involve shouting, threats, and violence. But this felt different. The cold object behind my head never moved, but the man's hand trembled. We drove in silence for several minutes. I could hear the sound of tires on the road and the wind coming through a cracked window. My heart was pounding so loudly I thought he could hear it. Finally, I gathered the courage to look at him in the mirror. For a split second, I saw his eyes. They weren't cruel. They were filled with panic. He looked about my age, maybe late 30s, wearing a simple jacket and worn-out shoes. Not the kind of person you'd expect to see on the news. "Listen," he said quietly, "I don't want to hurt you." That sentence confused me even more. "Then why are you doing this?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. We passed a sign that said we were 10 miles from the city limits. In the distance, I could see endless farmland. "That wasn't the plan," he finally said. "What wasn't?" I asked. "My life," he replied. Another long silence followed. The sirens were gone now, just the sound of the road. "I just need you to drive," he said again. "Once we're far enough, I'll get out." My thoughts were spinning.
Should I turn around? Should I stop at the next gas station? But every time I considered it, I felt the cold metal press a little closer. I didn't know if it was real or not, but I wasn't willing to find out. Minutes felt like hours. Then suddenly, my radio came on with a news alert. "This is a breaking update," the reporter said. "Police are responding to a robbery at First County Bank." My chest tightened. The reporter continued describing a man who had run from the building just minutes ago. I glanced in the mirror again. The description matched my passenger perfectly. My hands felt numb. I was driving a bank robber out of town. The man closed his eyes. "They already know," he whispered. I swallowed hard. "Why?" I asked quietly. And that's when everything changed.
For a long moment, he said nothing. We drove past more empty fields, the town now just a distant memory behind us. "I never wanted this," he finally said. His voice cracked. "I'd tried everything else." I didn't know what to say. Part of me was terrified. Another part of me was curious. "What do you mean?" I asked. He took a deep breath. "My son is sick," he said softly. The way he said it, slow and heavy, made my stomach drop. "He's only 8 years old." I felt something inside me shift. "Doctors say he needs special treatment. Soon. Very soon." The man rubbed his face with one hand, still holding the cold object with the other. "I don't have that kind of money," he continued. "I work construction, long hours, barely enough to pay rent." I stayed quiet, listening. "I went to every bank in town," he said, "applied for loans, asked for help, begged even. They all said no." His voice started shaking. "They said my credit wasn't good enough, that I didn't make enough money, that it was too risky." I could hear pain in every word. "They didn't see a father trying to save his child," he whispered. "They just saw numbers." I swallowed hard. "So you robbed the bank?" I said quietly. "Yes," he replied. "I didn't know what else to do." We drove in silence again. The fields blurred past the windows. "I'm not a bad person," he said suddenly. "I've never broken the law in my life." "I believe you," I said, without thinking, and I surprised myself by saying it. "I just couldn't watch him fade away," the man continued. "Every day the doctors told us time was running out. My wife cries every night. I promised my son I would fix it." His voice broke completely now. "I promised him I would make it better." My throat tightened. I thought about my own family, about how far I would go to protect them. The cold metal was still against my head, but somehow it didn't feel as terrifying anymore. It felt heavy, like the weight of a desperate decision. "How much did you take?" I asked. "Enough," he said quietly. "Enough for the treatment. Maybe even enough to give him a chance." We were far outside the town now. No houses, no cars, just long stretches of road and trees. "I never wanted to scare you. I'm sorry." I didn't answer. I was trying to understand, trying to balance fear with compassion. The man behind me wasn't a monster. He was a father who felt trapped, but he had still done something wrong, and now I was part of it. The road curved through a wooded area. Tall trees blocked most of the sunlight. Everything felt quiet. Too quiet. "Pull over up ahead," the man said softly. I saw a small dirt road leading into the trees. I slowed down and turned onto it. We drove for about 30 seconds before he told me to stop. I parked. The engine kept running. For a moment, neither of us moved. The air felt heavy. "You can let me out here," he said. I nodded. He slowly removed the cold object from behind my head. When I glanced in the mirror, I realized something shocking. It wasn't even a real weapon. It looked like a dark metal tool. Heavy. Cold. But not what I had feared. He noticed my expression. "I didn't want to hurt you," he said. "I just needed you to believe me." I exhaled slowly. My whole body felt weak. He opened the door, then paused. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for not doing anything stupid. For listening." I turned and finally looked at him fully. Up close, he looked exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes, face worn by stress. "Take care of your son," I said. "I will," he replied. "I promise." He stepped out of the car. Before closing the door, he looked back one last time. "I'm sorry you got dragged into this," he said. Then he closed the door and walked into the trees. Within seconds, he disappeared. I sat there, shaking. The silence was overwhelming. No sirens, no people, just the wind in the leaves. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a news notification about the robbery. Police were searching the area. My hands hovered over the steering wheel. I knew what I was supposed to do. Call the police, tell them everything, give them the direction, help them catch him. That was the right thing, the legal thing. But then I thought about his son, about hospital rooms, about sleepless nights, about a father running out of options. If they caught him, the money would be gone, and so would his son's chance. I felt torn in half. One part of me wanted justice. The other part wanted mercy. I sat there for several minutes, staring at my phone. My finger hovered over the call button. My heart pounded. Finally, I locked the screen. I started the car, and I drove away.
I never called the police. The road back into town felt longer than ever. Every passing car made me nervous. Every sound felt louder. When I finally reached the main street, everything looked normal again. People walking, stores open, life continuing like nothing had happened. But inside me, everything had changed. For days afterward, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face. I heard his voice. I felt the cold metal behind my head, and I remembered his words about his son. The news kept talking about the robbery. Police searched for the suspect, but they never found him. Eventually, the story faded away. Another headline replaced it. Another event took its place. Life moved on, but I never forgot. Sometimes I wonder what happened to him. Did his son get the treatment? Did he survive? Did that money save a life? Or did everything fall apart anyway? I'll probably never know. There are days when I feel guilty, like I should have done the right thing, like I should have made that call. And then there are days when I feel peaceful, like maybe I helped someone when the world had turned its back on them. Life isn't always black and white. Sometimes it lives in the gray. That day taught me something important. Behind every headline, behind every crime, there's often a human story. Pain, fear, love, desperation. I'm not saying what he did was right, but I understand why he did it. And that understanding changed me forever. Only a few people know about what happened that day. I kept it quiet. I carried it with me. And now, you know too. I don't know if I made the right choice, but I do know this. Sometimes life pushes good people into impossible situations, and sometimes compassion feels heavier than justice. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe. And in the comments, tell me, what do you do for a living? Have you ever experienced something strange or unforgettable at work? Your story might be the next one we share.